Ladies and gentlemen, good to see you. And I'm going to start with you because you guys, with the help of an accounting firm, actually looked at 5 families, prototypical families, a couple with 2 kids, making $250,000 in 5 different cities, and tried to look at whether or not they're quote-unquote rich. What did you find?
Right. Well, as you said, I mean, this $250,000 earnings has become the kind of great divide between the middle class and the rich, according to some politicians. So we wanted to take a really dispassionate look at this. And what we found was that, as you said, they're really not on easy street. We took a couple that we thought really epitomized the American dream. A couple that had gone to college on student loans. One has a master's degree. Now they have really great jobs in corporations in major cities. They live in the suburbs. They have a house that's typical of that suburb with a 80% mortgage.
Got it. Okay, that's the background. And what did you find?
And what we found was that they, in 4 of the 5 communities that we looked at, they are underwater. They're in the red. And that's because not only are they hit by taxes, high cost of living, but they're also being extremely responsible in saving for their future, saving for their retirement, and saving for their kids' education. When they do all that, it's not so easy. They're stretched like a lot of other Americans.
David Callahan, when they put all this together over at the Fiscal Times, they found, for example, that a couple in Huntington, New York, when it came to non-federal taxes, paying $29,000 a year. Plano, Texas, $13,000 a year. We have these graphics. Pinecrest, Florida, $13,000. Naperville, Illinois, $18,000. Does any of that persuade you when it comes to this issue about whether or not making $250,000 defines you as rich?
Well, reading the article, I was really struggling to hold back the tears. I mean, this is a sob story. Their prototypical couple that lives on Long Island has $14,000 a month in after-tax income. Now, that's good money no matter where you live. These are people who are socking away savings for college and retirement. They're driving new cars. They're living in a nice house in one of the nicest suburbs in America. I mean, these people may not be on easy street, but they are the winners in American society. And also, keep in mind, this is a very small fraction of the population. 1 in 50 households have that kind of money.
Yeah, it's only 2.9% of the population.
Yeah, most Americans, will never see that kind of money. And I don't know why we're focusing on the hardship of people making so much money when we have 15 million unemployed, we have 40 million people living in poverty, 40 million people getting by on food stamps. I mean, come on.
And respond to that, and particularly if you don't mind, one of the things I noticed in your methodology was that you had each of this is a 2-income couple, that you had each of them maxing out on their 401ks, which is a lot of money to say. I mean, responsible, yes, but not too many people can afford to do that. Which skews the overall result here, which is that most of them turn out to be in the red in your parlance.
Well, look, if they do what they should be doing for their future, and they should be able to do when they're making incomes like this, which is savings, they are in the red. In reality, what would happen? They would probably have to cut back on their savings. They would have to cut back on their discretionary spending. But these are people that are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They went to college, they have good jobs, and they're still struggling. And it really raises the question, I mean, is the American dream fading for people? And these are the kind of people that so many are aspiring to be like. So,
what do you say to the issue of, well, I thought we all cared about the deficit. I thought this election was about less spending and getting our budget under control.
It's absolutely about getting our budget under control, but there are 2 issues. There's the short term and there's the long term. In the short term, I think the president was absolutely right in extending or suggesting that we should be extending the tax cuts to everybody. The recovery is fragile. We shouldn't be raising taxes on the very kind of people who might go out and buy a new car or spend a little bit more and get the economy rolling again. Longer term, of course, the deficit is a critical issue, and it's got to be dealt with both on the spending and the tax side.
David, what do you say to those who argue this was a pro-growth move? The best way to improve tax revenues is to have a growing economy. If you raise taxes at this point, then you won't have the economy grow as much and hence have less tax revenues.
Well, most economists tell us that giving tax breaks to the wealthy is about the worst way to stimulate the economy compared to almost anything else you could do, such as unemployment benefits, investments in infrastructure. I mean, you name it. This is the last way to try to stimulate growth, and it's going to be terrible for the deficit. I mean, you extend those affluent tax cuts for 10 years, we're talking $700 billion.
So if it's terrible for the deficit, then why extend them for anybody?
If you want to solve the deficit, you need to have growth in the economy as well. And
David, you get I want to get David's last word though on that particular question.
Yeah, I mean, short term, we're going to need to spend more and cut taxes for those low earners, as has been proposed by cutting the payroll tax. Long term, we're going to have to raise taxes on those households that can afford it, and the people who are making $250,000 can afford it. I'm sorry, I'm just not taken in by this sob story about people with $14,000 a month and after-tax income. I mean, you know,
Anna, David,
what planet are they living on over there at the Fiscal Times?
Long term, the taxes have to be raised across the board, but you want to raise them in a thoughtful way, broadening the tax base and not just, raising rates on.
Everybody talk about cutting spending. Thank you, Ann and David. What about cutting spending, Tyler?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. You asked the question, where did the debate over the deficit go? There is no congressman who doesn't like the idea of giving people a tax cut.
Absolutely.
There is nobody.
Absolutely.
Where did it go? I agree. That's where it went. It was because we can give the money away.
But we shouldn't focus on the deficit. We should focus on the size of the budget.
I don't disagree with you. I'll tell you the other thing that was fascinating in that story was how much your non-federal income taxes actually are.
They're very high.
Including gasoline taxes, telephone taxes, real estate sales taxes, and the like. Straight ahead.